Hi, good morning, everyone. The time has struck 10:30, so let's get this started. Welcome to this session that we call Maximizing Your Investment Potential, Understanding Financial Opportunities and Key Considerations for Your Project. This is a joint collaboration between the Circular Investment Readiness Network, which is a co-developed community of practice between the two projects, Circular Invest and Definite CCRI. And for this time around, we are actually collaborating also with the WHO project, which is another EU-funded project. So welcome to this session today. So the agenda for the day, we will start with a short welcome and introduction, followed by Elisa Achterberg presenting key considerations for project owners to attract investors, which is a comprehensive checklist for circular projects to become investment ready. At 10:50, we will have a short presentation from Zach Mitchell from Metabolic, exploring financial opportunities for your circular projects, followed by some short tools from the WHO project at 11, to unlock investments. And then we will have a success story where She Impact, a representative from the investment She Impact, will present some success stories of how they evaluate circular projects and show a little bit of a success story that they have invested into, followed by the last part of closing and some next steps. And then over to you, Marine, to just shortly present the afternoon sessions as well.
Yes, thank you, Kristen. So I just want to take a quick moment to remind of the session this afternoon that'll take place as part of the third Hoop Circulars Investors Day. And so on the agenda, we have 3 sessions led by the speakers, George Rodriguez de Almeida from RDA Climate Solutions, Sarah Bedin from PCP Academy, and Susana Lopez from NIPOR. And yes, we have some interesting sessions lined up on evaluation frameworks that are adapted to the unique characteristics of the circular bioeconomy, as well as discussions on opportunities for solution providers to secure funding through public procurement and helping to kickstart investments. So for those who are joining as well in the afternoon, I just want to mention that there is a separate meeting link which you have available in the calendar invitation. So if you could please make sure to connect using this dedicated link. Yes, that's all. I'll hand it back to you, Kristen.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So just very short housekeeping rules for the day. The webinar will last for about an hour and a half. If you have any questions throughout the entire session, please ask them in the chat. And we will have some separate segments where we will have some Q&As, both for the speakers and also for She Impact. And this session will also be recorded, just so you know. So just very briefly, as mentioned in the introduction, this session is made through a collaboration between the 3 projects, Circular Invest, Definite CCRI, and the WHO project. And all these 3 projects, they are so-called PDA projects funded under the Horizon 2020. So we are providing project development assistance to cities and project owners. And all 3 of these projects, they are based on the same challenge. Developers of new circular or bio-based solutions, they often face several challenges and barriers that hinder their process. So PDA projects, they are therefore here to help local, regional circular economy projects from across Europe to overcome these challenges and barriers that hinder investments into circular and bio-based projects. So just briefly, what is the Circular Investment Readiness Network about? We are a joint initiative between these 2 PDA projects, Project Development Assistance Projects, called Circular Invest and Definite. And with joint forces, we have developed this shared community of practice, which will bring more circular projects together and reach a wider EU network of stakeholders. So we are 2 projects with Circular Invest Consortium, is InnovaPlus, Meta, Circular Economy, and ICLEI, while Definite CCRI Consortium consists of ICLEI, Circular Economy, Bankers Without Boundaries, the City of Ghent, and the National Technology University of Athens. So the purpose of the network is to support circular economy projects in overcoming these challenges related to development and investment readiness. So how are we doing this? We are sharing best practices and insights on attracting investments to circular projects by fostering collaboration among projects, industry experts, leaders, companies, and change makers across Europe and associated countries. So if you want to join our community of practice, please scan this QR code and join our list of participants. So our upcoming sessions that will take place probably around November. It's not completely scheduled yet. We will speak about pitching your project to investors. And also at the end of the project lifespan at Definite CCRI around March, April next year, we will be summarizing the learnings from our project. And then we will have 5 upcoming sessions that will only be under Circular Invest's project lifespan. And we also have a separate LinkedIn page where you can sign up and be up to date and also interact with stakeholders such as project owners, investors, and circularity experts. So please join our community of practice. I think I can hear someone. It's fine. And if you are interested in receiving this tailored project development assistance, we have a third call open for application in Circular Invest, which is open until the 13th of September. So please visit Circular Invest website for more information and how to apply to receive that support. And now over to Alisa Gambusi to just very briefly present the WHO project and what you are about.
Thank you very much, Christine, for giving me the floor. So I guess that you are moving the slides, right?
I can move the slides.
Okay,
absolutely.
Yes, thank you, please. Thank you very much. Okay, you can go to the next one. Great. So I prepared just 4 slides for you. It will take me really a few minutes. What's the WHO project? The WHO project is like the pioneer PDA project that started in October 2020. So we are very close to the finish line. And we are now in the replicability phase of the project. We started by knowing our 8 lighthouse cities and regions that are the demonstrators. We provided them PDA, and at the same time, we were developing tools for other cities and regions beyond our consortium to be able to assess the circularity and also assess the circularity of specific projects or the bankability of these projects. And apart from that, there are a lot of knowledge exchange tools and material. Everything is on the Urban Circular Bioeconomy Hub. There you find tools, you find the virtual academy, you find a forum, you find a form to request for support, etc. Next slide, please. Okay, yes, there was an animation. Next one. Okay, this is the hub as you see it. You see also the direction. It's hoop and then hub.ua. Then you see it. I suggest you to register to have. It's absolutely free, but it's just to have full access to all the functions of the hub. Of course, if you are not registered, there's no problem. You can consult the material, but you don't get the reports on the assessment and these kind of fancy things like access to the forum, etc. Next slide, please. Okay, and there's also an animation. Please give it to it. Okay, that's great. That will be easy. So if I have to resume the WHO PDA approach in one sentence, it would be this one. It was to identify a feasible project for a territory and then to provide the needed capital to make it real. So we had this like multi-branched PDA that started from knowing the city, and then we wanted to understand if the technology was feasible, if it was legal. We also checked the business models and the business plans. Are there customers at local level? What about the selling volume? These kind of questions. Stakeholder engagement was also a key part. It was actually key in one of the territory to create the seed of a new value chain. The investment at the moment hasn't materialized yet because it's very big and it's difficult to find a promoter, but still this kind of stakeholder engagement interaction are very crucial. And of course, the last question to be posed is, where do we get the money from? So depending on the technology maturity, you must go for grants, or then if you have already a mature project, private capitals, etc. It really depends. In our 8 territories are really experiencing very different situations. Next slide, please. And I think it's the last one. Okay, and there's also an animation. That's great. Okay, so this is just a resuming slide. As I said before, we are very close to the finish line. This is a resume of all the impacts. I'm not going to read all these numbers. You will have the slides after, but just to resume that we have been able to induce more than 110 million euros of induced investment in the lighthouses, cities and regions. So in the territories that have received the project development assistance, that's meant for 14 times the European Commission's contributions that we received to create the projects. And next slide, please. That was all. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any question or if you want the slides or etc., you just write in the QA session and I will be happy to answer you, or you send me an email. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elisa. Indeed, we will share the slides with you all afterwards, so no worries about that. So over to the purpose of today's session. Today, we aim to provide a clear overview of the various financing avenues available to your circular projects. So we will try at least to help you to gain a better understanding of financial opportunities for circular projects, learn how to make your project investment ready, be able to network with like-minded professionals and potential investors, and finally, be inspired by successful case studies out there. And now we would like to hear from you. So please grab your phone or open another tab on your browser, go to menti.com, either scan the QR code or type the code 7817 7165. And please answer this question that we have. So what are your main challenges to combat when looking for investments for your circular project or business? And then hopefully we will be able to touch upon a few of these challenges here today throughout the session. So please add your challenges to the Menti and we will get back to the poll later today. All right, so now we have our first speaker. Elisa Achterberg is an expert in circular finance and has been working for 8 years on innovating finance for a circular economy. And with a solid background in econometrics, risk modeling, and circular businesses, Elisa will introduce us to circular economy business models, focusing on its challenges and risks, followed by tips and tricks for project owners. So over to you, Elisa. I will stop sharing my screen so that you can share your own slides.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be here today with you and have the opportunity to share a bit on, well, first of all, what circular financing is, but also what Kristen already mentioned, my best tips and tricks to get your own circular business case finance. Today, I will start a little bit on circular financing, like touching base on some basic concepts about finance, because that's not always very known to everyone. Then I will indeed go into 7 circular revenue models and why they are difficult to finance. I will talk about why financing not always follows even when you have a solid business case. I will touch upon 6 steps that can lead to a financiable circular company. I will share with you also 1 technique with which you can organize your circular value chain and in this way spread like risks and returns, and why this makes it easier to finance the growth of your company. But why should you or would you even listen to me? Well, I have been working on this subject now for more than 9 years. We started in 2015 with the first report on the topic, financing the circular economy, with the Finance CE Working Group, a group of financial sector in the Netherlands. I've been publishing about circular business models, about how to finance these business models, what the financial sector can do about it, because they also have a lot of work to do still to actually fund the transition to a circular economy. We've looked at policymakers, what their role should be in this transition. We have worked with tons of entrepreneurs, of which the Circular Phone is a report talking about Fairphone as a case study where we developed a financial business case for them. We worked on the role of blockchain and tracking technology, like what these state-of-the-art new technologies can offer, and of course, how that will influence finance. And last but not least, I've actually published a scientific paper, how you can attract bank finance for a circular business innovation. And 2 years ago, we actually written a roadmap for the financial sector together with the Kopgroep Circular Financing initiative by the Dutch Central Bank, with an agenda for the financial sector until 2030, what they can do to change and align with the circular economy. But I guess we know the problems now, so we've written tons of papers about it. And the last 2.5 years, I'm actually working on providing solutions and helping entrepreneurs actually attract finance. My mission is to transform the financial sector, but to do that, entrepreneurs and circular businesses are indispensable. So let's dive in. I come across many entrepreneurs who think, like, finance, what's that all about? You know, all this jargon, all this language, I don't get it. But as well, entrepreneurs that think like, okay, a circular business model, that's way too complicated. I don't know how to set that up. And there is a common mistake made, like that entrepreneurs sometimes think that finance is about the financial part of the business case, which is, of course, an important part, especially also to attract financiers or investors. But when we're talking about financing, it's about attracting external finance to grow your business. And there's roughly like 2 types of finance you can attract, which is equity and debt. So equity, that's like when an investor provides capital in exchange for a share in the company, so they get part of the ownership. For example, venture capital for unproven or untested technology. But for circular companies, of course, impact investors are very important here. That's investors that invest in companies that at the same time demonstrate impact as well as returns. And then you have debt. That's like similar to bank finance. They generally provide debt finance, which are loans. Like you loan an interest, you loan a principal and you pay interest on this loan. So that's in short like an important distinguishment you need to know. Yes, I wanted to shortly tell you a little bit about how an impact investor looks at your business case. So an impact investor primarily looks at qualitative aspects, as oftentimes like the financial track records are not there yet. So they look at what problem does the company solve? Is it a real problem or is it a nice to have, like a painkiller or a vitamin? And of course, what's the impact and can you prove the positive impact you make on environment or social? A very important thing is also the entrepreneur, him or herself, like who is the entrepreneur, who is the team, and what's their vision, very important as well. And of course, the business model and the market, how mature is the market. And of course, they also ask for financial figures. Generally, they ask for at least 3 years projected in the future. Yeah. So that's shortly how an impact investor looks at your business case. And a banker looks a little bit different. The main question a banker asks is, shall I get my loan back? And how can I have, grip on when it doesn't come back? So they are very much more focused on financial health of the company. So is the company able to repay its obligation in the short term as well as in the long term? And the question for them is also, what do I need to finance? Do you finance inventory or other things? And what's the collateral? So what can we sell in case you cannot fulfill your debt obligations? So that's a bit of how these two types of investors look at your company. But this is a question I often get, like, but if your business case is solid, financing follows automatically, right? Well, unfortunately, it's not the case, because in the circular economy, money flows, information flows, and material flows are entirely different than in a normal business case. And on top of that, financiers generally ask for very traditional pieces and documents and look to them with linear glasses. So therefore, there's a lot of work still to be done as well by entrepreneurs, like how can we present your financial value to help financiers understand your value in their own language. On the other hand, the financial sectors still have to develop their own circular glass and lens to look at these figures. And one example, I think I skipped that one. Well, let's skip that one. I wanted to share an example that we're working on with the kopgroep Circulair Financieren. We have developed a risk scorecard, so a first risk model that actually looks at circular aspects of the business as well. I think I've shared a link, so maybe the link can be shared to the scorecard. It's very nice. You can fill in your own risks there and check how you score in terms of risk with your business. I think it's very nice to learn how they look at that. But over to circular business. What is circular business? Well, in the linear economy, we know we take resources, we make products out of them, we shortly use them, and we throw them away, the value at the same time. The business model or the revenue model behind it is selling as many products as possible that are almost broken. So in the circular economy, we do it differently. We try to retain the value of products as long as possible by maintaining and repairing and reusing as long as possible. An important business model to do that is the shift from ownership to use. But before we get into the different revenue models, I always discuss with the entrepreneurs I'm working with, the first step on the R ladder is refuse. Like, ask yourself, do we really need what you offer or want to offer? Does it really add something that improves our lives, that is innovative and that really makes a difference? It takes courage to answer this question, but I think it's the most circular strategy we have to not make any useless shit circular for the sake of it. So, and if you can answer this question with a yes, we can continue with, okay, how to, what revenue models fit your business. So there are 7. I will not go over them in detail. The first 5 are types of so-called product as a service. So you can sell like clean laundry, like the function of a product, pay per use, or pool the product, rent, share, and lease. So these are all different types of product as a service. And they're here like organized from circular to least circular. But that's also because a revenue model in itself is not per se circular, but in these types of revenue models, there are more or less incentives for circularity. And these first 5, the product as a service models, are the most difficult to finance. You also have the sell and buyback model and sales model of a circular product. That's less difficult because it's less different than other types of business models. And in these models, the problem is often that like the linear equivalent is just more cheap than the circular one. So you need somehow to cover that. And why are these models so difficult to finance? I'm now talking about these product as a service type of revenue models that has a lot of, there's a lot of difficulty with it. But the main thing is that you have to finance upfront your product and you receive the cash flow, oftentimes in subscription fees over time, making like the return on your investment way longer than traditionally in a sales model. But also an underestimated reason is the linear lens of the financiers themselves, which I discussed earlier. Oh, there the circular risk scorecard is. Well, I already mentioned that and the link was shared in the chat. Please go ahead and have a look in your own time. But what can you do yourself? I wanted to look at an example we've been working on with Fairphone some years ago. They came to us telling us, okay, we have this circular product, but how do we remain owner of the product and actually make money by extending the lifetime of the business of the product? And how can we make a product as a service business case around it? So that we've done, you can find the details in this report. But from this work and the work with other entrepreneurs, we've actually figured out 6 steps you need to do to make your business financiable, so to say. And the first is set the right price. And this is again the world upside down, because when you're asking a subscription fee, a low price doesn't mean cheap. A low price signals that you actually are trusting that your product can last for a long time. So this is totally different thinking. And to set this price, you need to know what will be the costs over the long run of my product. How will they get back to me? And how can I make sure that I repair them and make sure that my product will be reused in another cycle by someone else? So that's the difficulty by setting the price right, but an important first step. And then I wanted to talk about the underlying value of the asset. That's something that financiers look at, like what's the collateral? What money can we get back if we sell the product? And that's the traditional way that lease works. So that's a financial instrument. You probably heard of it. They look at the underlying value of the product. We know it very well from the car business. And in the car industry, we exactly know what the price is of a second-hand car. But for a lot of circular products, we don't know. But the important thing is we need to focus on the cash flows, not on the value of selling a product. And are you still here, everyone? Because what I'm going to say now, I think, is the most important part of this presentation. You can forget everything, but please look at this. It is all about the cash flow generating capacity of your product. This looks maybe a bit scary. It's a graph. Not everyone likes these things, but this, if you do this, it will become a no-brainer for a financier to finance your business. So what are the drivers of this cash flow generating capacity of your product? The first is, of course, the product cost. What does it cost to make or buy your product, your circular product? And then you will get revenues from your customer. And then you have to look at how long will my product be in use and how much time in between will the product be idle before it can be used again. Here in the graph, you see 5 customers using the product after each other. And then, of course, one of the drivers is the lifetime of the product itself. These 4 things are key to estimate the cash flow generating capacity of your product. So here's the formula. You don't need to remember that, but this is the value of circular business. Generally, an investor asks you to, in your pitch deck, present your unit economics. You probably heard of it. And that's oftentimes focused on the customer or focused on other things. But in the circular business, you need to choose your unit economics to be your product. So, and there's a few other steps. I won't discuss them here, but there's in the contract you can do a lot to make a financier give more comfort. The customer, you can choose and diversify, spread risk to choosing different customer types. Chain partners have a very important role. And last but not least, you need to know your own financing needs. I see a lot of entrepreneurs that don't know exactly what they need and why they need it. So sometimes they have a too high ask, or they ask for finance that actually don't fit their need, actually. I'm offering actually an online training about it. Links will be shared later, where we actually discuss all these points in more detail. I think we have a little bit time left, maybe very, very little bit, but I will shortly go into a second example. We're working with swap feeds.
Yeah, just 1 minute, Elisa. Eh?
Yes, 1 minute. Because it's only possible to have a successful business case when you involve the circular is only as strong as its weakest links, just what it said here. And we created a collective model for revenue sharing with circular chain partners. We tested this now with swap feeds, and we're almost getting into a deal with the banks. So they're formulating their terms on how to finance this. How it works, I only want to shortly mention it. So all these chain partners sign an agreement together and agree this on the distribution of revenues. So every euro that comes in, so every user that bikes through the city pays a fee, and that's distributed over all these chain partners. And a financier can join this agreement and also get a share of this revenue. And why is it easier to finance it this way? Because this size participation over a complete project. So rather than finance one company, you finance the chain of companies. Well, I have some quotes here why it's easier to finance. I will skip this for now. But it's very, very important that we focus on chain financing and collaboration, because it actually can make your business more easy to finance. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Elisa, for this great overview. We wish we could have a lot more time with you, but unfortunately, the time is short here today. So let me share my screen again, and we will move on to the next speaker. And with us here today, we have Zach Mitchell, who is part of the growing sustainable finance team at Metabolic, and they are working to address the barriers to funding the sustainability transition. And today with us here today, we will hear Zach introduce his work at Metabolic, focusing on the circular innovative collection project and the lessons learned and recommendations for other circular projects. So over to you, Zach, to share your own screen and present your work.
Thank you very much. So first of all, just while we're changing over the sharing, I want to say thank you very much to Lisa for that lovely presentation. I was just having some flashbacks to when I was in my internship and I was reading those PDFs, and some of the graphics you had up there really sort of took me back. So thank you very much, and I learned a lot from the stuff that you've worked on. So thank you. So circular economy finance. So as I've been introduced, my name's Zach Mitchell, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit about Metabolic, who we are, and then the Circular Innovation Collective, which is this sort of collaborative project that we worked on and applied to a cohort of ventures in Amsterdam. So Metabolic is a systems change and sustainability organization, and we like to call ourselves an ecosystem of organizations because we have different entities that have a different capability to enact systems change. This project specifically was a collaboration between the consultancy arm, who I work for, and the ventures arm. So to create a circular economy, we need circular value chains. And circular value chains are made up of circular businesses. But unfortunately, there's not a lot of track record for these circular businesses for some of the reasons that Elisa talked about earlier. So I'm not going to go into that in any more detail. Because there isn't so much track record, this means that there is much higher investor risk and less political support, because there aren't those examples out there for them to have the confidence to see these businesses working successfully. And because this lack of track record, it means that there's less financing for new businesses, which means that there's less ventures, and this inhibition loop basically keeps us stuck in the current system that we're in right now. So as an idea to try and break this inhibition loop and try and create a circular value chain, we tried to take a systemic perspective and a multi-stakeholder approach. So we engaged both the municipality as well as other consultancy firms with specialities that would complement our own to try and accelerate a place-based transition. So this idea that if you focus on one geographical region, you can then look at the circular value chain that exists there and try and get those circular businesses, those circular ventures to collaborate so that you can create a whole value chain. On this initial pilot, we applied this principle to the textile industry within Amsterdam municipality. But in theory, this could be applied to any place-based economy or any place-based value chain. And at the end, I'll present some of the deliverables which we created, which are openly available, that we hope can be used to be able to replicate this kind of project in any place around the world. So the first thing that we did was map the sector. So I spent a good, 2 months probably just researching every single textile related venture and business within Amsterdam and doing some research into what they're offering. Do they have a sort of circular perspective? Can they really play an important role in creating this circular value chain? And the companies that we identified sat in different aspects of the value chain. We had basically identified that there were gaps. So for example, in Amsterdam, resale is actually something that is very, very prominent. And there's a lot of great vintage stores and resale stores and things like that. So we didn't feel that it was necessary to support more of the resale business. But there were other aspects such as repair and education around lengthening the period of life of your textiles that we identified needed more support. So these 10 ventures that we went to work with, I'm not going to go in any detail, you can look them up yourself, but they went all the way from wool processing within the Netherlands to clothing repair to childhood education around circular textiles. So I really love this graphic because I think it gives such a good idea of what a circular value chain could really look like. So as you have with any product, there is this capacity to be able to lengthen the lifetime of the product. But it's essential that all all the parts of this chain are present. If a product comes to the end of its life and there are no players that can collect and recycle or resell those products, then they're just going to sit in waste basically and become landfill. So you need players to be able to play that role to bring the product back into the circular system. So here I've sort of dropped the 10 ventures that we worked with on the places that they exist within the value chain. So now moving on to the financing aspect. In parallel with the accelerator program, which we did with the ventures to help them scale their business and take on the challenges that they were facing and learn how to measure and create impact, we also wanted to support them with their financing. So this started with mapping the funder landscape before we engaged the ventures and trying to understand, okay, who really is available, who would want to invest in a project like this. Then working with the ventures to articulate their specific financing needs, help them to develop the models that were necessary, and then facilitating the interaction between the ventures and the investors. A lot of these ventures, felt a bit nervous about meeting these investors, and rightly so. These people could make or not make your business. So it was really interesting to sort of coach them in the process, basically. And then we curated and facilitated some interaction and had days where we had all of the ventures together with potential investors. And yeah, it was really a very, very interesting process. So the result was that 6 out of the 10 ventures that we worked with did receive financing from this program. So yeah, personally, this is the sort of the most important aspect of what really happened, was that these organizations did actually receive the funding that they were looking for, and hopefully that will help them to develop and fill that gap within the circular value chain, enabling a circular textile system to emerge within Amsterdam. So the main lessons which we learned from this program, first of all, that it's really important that we balance returns with sustainability objectives. Like, it's in this space, you have a lot of very, very passionate people who really, want to make an impact. And that's really fantastic to see and is so crucial. But at the same time, you need financial health to survive as an organization. So, I think the sort of economy that exists right now that is solely focused on return of investment has many flaws, but also going about your business and only focusing on the impact is also flawed. So you need to understand this balance when you're developing a successful business. Secondly, the regulatory environment and the consumer readiness isn't really there right now, honestly. People aren't really aware of repair services. I work in a repair cafe, for example, every month, and it's great. We get lots of people coming in, but compared to the amount of people who just get a rip in their jeans and chuck it in the bin, it's just not the same, So I think consumers need to really understand a little bit more about this idea of a circular business and circular products. And at the same time, the regulatory environment has a massive role to play to facilitate these circular businesses and help them develop. Our third main lesson was this idea of taking a systems perspective of the value chain and trying to create collaboration. Another really interesting thing happened was that these ventures that went through this program together, they were always talking about how they could help each other out, how they could collaborate, giving each other new ideas, just sort of bouncing ideas off each other. And that's so important to see. If we're going to create these place-based circular value chains, we need this collaboration. We need a way that we can facilitate that and encourage them working together. As I mentioned, we've created a guide which has 3 separate parts to be able to replicate the Circular Innovation Collective project in any city. So I'm really excited to share this with you, and it's free to download on the Circular Innovation Collective, which I'll be sharing the link with you in the chat. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and I hope you're looking forward to the rest of the day.
Thank you so much for this very hands-on advice, Zach. Really appreciate it. And let me share my screen again, and we will move on to the next speaker of today, So with us today, we have also Jorge Rodriguez de Almeida, who is a leading advisor on sustainable energy and climate adaptation, who has been working for almost 20 years at the European level for government, cities, and major industries. He is an advisor to the board of the Portuguese ESCO Association APICI, as well as founder and the managing director of RDA Climate Solutions. And Jorge, as one of the partners in the HOOP project, will introduce us to the project tools and how project owners can benefit from these tools developed within the HOOP project. So over to you, Jorge. Please share your own slides.
Thank you for this presentation. So let me just put you here and see you. So I will talk about a little bit about the HOOP project and what tools we have developed. This is, I would call it a kind of teaser for the afternoon session, but I want to touch bases on some points that already have been made here. Before moving to the topic, just to say that RDA is an advisory company. We work on climate change, mitigation and adaptation. So we work on both of the topics. And the reason that we are here, because one of our jobs is to link investors with project developers. So we try to bridge them. And why do we do this? Exactly because of the reason that we are working on HOOP, because we understand that there is, in one hand, there is money available because investors do have the money and they want to invest, and there are projects that need this money, but there is a gap in the middle. So we need to bridge this gap, and this is exactly what HOOP is trying to do, and what we are trying to do. So before going ahead with the tools, we need the background. Most have been said by Elisa, but so how do investors see these types of projects? So sometimes they are afraid of these projects because they do not know or do not have the experience. So for them, this is uncharted territory, and so they should have some I would say that they will have more barriers to enter on this market because they have no experience on it. And why does that happen? Two main reasons. One is because of the level of innovation. Whenever there is innovation, there is risk, and so that will make some investors to stay back of those process. And the other is that there are lack of financial tools that are dedicated to circular economy projects, and I will talk about some of those tools. But I always like to present this slide because this slide tries to show what are the tools that are not available in the market or should be improved in the market. And for projects to be financed, we need four types of things. One is money, is provide finance. So that's clear for everyone. We need equity loans. We need different types of capital. We need short-term and long-term capital available in the market. But we also need, on the other hand, to develop pipeline. We see that we have a lot of projects, but sometimes they stand alone. They don't have the scale. So we need the technical assistance, exactly what we are trying to do in these projects. And we need to aggregate some of the projects to give them scale, because sometimes they do not have the scale enough to be funded or finance. And on the other hand, we need to build capacity among all the stakeholders. We need to build capacity among project developers, but also among investors, so that they both understand what we are talking about. So all of the supply chain needs to be trained and needs this capacity building. And last but not least, this is probably one of the key missing points in all of this story, is about the standardization. We need to standardize documentation. We need to standardize process. If we go for the energy sector, for instance, we are very active on the energy sector, and there everything is standardized. Whenever we present a due diligence, there is standards how we develop that due diligence. We present this to an investor, and he understands the document. We present to another investor, he understands the same document. Whenever we go to circular economy, there is a lack of standard documents there. And so that's exactly what we try to do with Hoop project, to build these documentations, these systems and the technical assistance, so that we can try to bridge the gap that I showed on the beginning. We did not work alone. We set up an investors board. The Circular Investor Board had 20 investors from different perspectives, from institutional investors or infrastructure investors such as EIB to venture capital. So we have the broad scope of investors supporting us on the topic, and with different views, because all of them will have different views of the same topic, especially if we compare venture capital with infrastructure investors. So that will be completely different view of the process. And we set up several resources that are available on the Hoop project. So we have a network of cities, a network that cities can join, cities and regions can join. We set up tools that are able to evaluate and understand how your region is in terms of circularity. We have documents that you can download, for instance, on the state of the art, etc. So I invite you to visit our website. And also we try to do matchmaking, so basically bringing together the two parts, cities, regions, project developers with investors. On the self-assessment, we have three tools here: biocircularity level, circular validation method, and project maturity level. So both of the three tools tend to evaluate the region, the project, or the project itself. So what we are trying to do is help regions to evaluate their own ecosystem, understand how they are in terms of circularity. And if we go, for instance, for the last one, we evaluate one project and try to understand how mature this project is. And so this project maturity level, I will detail it a bit later in the afternoon. But basically, what we try to say is, or we try to understand here, is how close your project is to be financed. So what are the missing parts of it? For that, we have created these project maturity levels. It's 6 project maturity levels that go from I have an idea of a project, I have the concept, but I do not know what are the revenues or what is the cost of that project. 2, I have all the documentations ready to launch a public tender, for instance. So we can be somewhere in the middle. And what we try to do with this tool is help you then say, okay, to move one step further, you need to develop this or that. And we also developed this due diligence process, because we understood that there were no standard for due diligence available in the market. And so we have developed this due diligence. For those of you who don't know what is a due diligence, the due diligence is a process that an investor will do in a first step to understand your project or your company. So basically, you will send someone that will go through the process, through everything, and try to understand what are the risks there and what are the mitigations tools that you have for those risks. Because all the projects have risks, and investors are very good and trying to anticipate risks. So they will look at your project, trying to see the risk from all the perspectives that are available. So it's a good resource for you, and it's a good takeaway from this session for you, is try to perform this due diligence before you meet the investor. Check these types of standards, see what kinds of questions there are here, and say, okay, do I have an answer for this or not? And what do I need to have an answer? If you have this, when you go to an investor, this is quite relevant, because no answer, that means that the risk is very, very high. So that could be the worst answer that you have. So all the tools are available in our Hoop app. I will invite you to visit. And also, if you have a project that is looking for an investor, you can click on this financial support, have some details about the project, and then we will try to link you with an investor or try to support you with the process, saying what are the tools that we have that could help you. Other OOP tools that we will talk in the afternoon, so state-of-the-art technology, about business models, what are the business models, an investment package that covers, for instance, the EU taxonomy and how relevant it is for you, and etc. So I will invite you to be in the afternoon with us. So thank you very much. I hope that I stayed on the time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Right on time. So now we would just like to move on to a short Q&A. So we have one question from Kees Joosten. It is a little unclear exactly what you refer to. Would you mind clarifying the question for us? It's something about the differentiation between regular products and circular projects, but where does it differ? Are you here to just clarify it? Yeah.
Yeah. Good morning. My name is Kees Joosten from Bax. We are partner in the HOOP project. I had a question for Elisa Achterberg, because you mentioned that, of course, also in a circular proposition, you need a clear customer audience, you need a clear revenue model, you need a clear, cash flow model. And then it came to my mind, well, in fact, that's for every product the case. So where does it make, where is the difference, or where should you pay attention to in that sense for circular products?
Yes, good point. I think I always assume that there's a circular product to the business case, but I think it's nice to give the example of Swapfiets again. They started their revenue model without having any circular ideas whatsoever. They just thought this is a great business idea. This will, the market needs this. And by taking this revenue model in a subscription model, they needed to actually start innovating their bike to be as sustainable as possible. And then I would say a circular product is a product that can actually last for a long time and is able to be used over and over. And that's a revenue model like that will only work if you have a circular product, or like Swapfiets, you will transition towards a more circular product by taking up this revenue model. But indeed, which I mentioned as well, like a revenue model in itself is not per se circular. So you always need to check, like in our size network, we everyone that adds to the size network needs to sign a code of conduct in which basic circularity principles are signed for, actually vouched for, about taking back guarantees, for example, because that's not part of all these things you just mentioned automatically. So there always needs to be some kind of check to make sure it's circular indeed.
Okay, thank you.
Amazing. Thank you very much. And we also have a question from Elisa Gambusi. So perhaps to you, Zach. I know you briefly mentioned it, but do you know of any available cash flow models, such as Excel, that allows to simulate the cash flow of circular products or services, considering their value beyond sale price? So ideally, some model that is endorsed by the investor community. Is that something that you are aware of?
Not like something that's freely available off the top of my head, to be honest. But I think, yeah, I think where it really differs is beyond the point of sale, there is implications for the cash flow for the provider of the good or service. Whereas normally you would just have someone who just sells a product, and as soon as it's off the shelf, they're not really involved anymore. Whereas I think these sort of cash flows, they go beyond that moment of sale, and then you need to sort of incorporate those into the considerations. But in terms of value beyond sale price, I don't know if that is also implying things like externalities, which is something that we try to work with quite a lot. This idea that if there are social and environmental benefits to the product, are there ways that you can sort of incorporate those into the price mechanism? And that's something that, yeah, I mean, it's at the crux of the issues that we're facing right now. And I wish I had an easy answer to how to do that, but I've had spent a whole master's studying it and spent like 3 years working on it now. And to be honest, yeah, there's so many different ideas of how to go about it, but it is difficult to incorporate value beyond financial value into these considerations. Jorge?
Yes, just to complement, because I do understand this question, and we, for instance, in the energy sector, we always talk about the multiple benefits of the energy efficiency, which go from health benefits. So if you have a better home, you have health issues, health quality. But then how you put an euro on this, and what's the added value actually for the investor here? Because this is out of the scope of the investment itself. So there are different perspectives here. This is a good to have in whenever you have this Excel file with all the externalities and the cash flows that will be generated afterwards. But you have to be careful, because you have to consider those that are related with the project and the investors will have access are one part, and the ones that it's good to have, but the investor will never get them because they are on a different layer. So that should be separate, because at the end of the day, we are talking about money, and we are talking about someone that is investing in order to have their payback. Whether it's an impact investor or other types of investors, they also want to have the return. If it's a foundation, etc., if it's a grant, that's a different story. But usually they try to have this return. So it's good to have this in mind. I think that Jonas wants to say something.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Jonas Piström. I'm representing a bank, a public bank, European Investment Bank. And first of all, very happy to hear really good presentations this morning. You highlighted some really relevant aspects to financing the circular economy. And I will put in the chat a bit information about what we do at EIB. We finance a lot of circular economy projects. We provide support to preparing projects. But on the question raised and the response from Jorge, at EIB, we are looking, of course, at financial model, cash flow. We are also looking at economic models, where we also factor in externalities. And we have our internal thresholds for how much economic internal rate of return we would like to see for a project for the EIB to invest in it. So I think that's a way of going beyond the normal cash flow, like Lisa showed, and also factor in externalities, which many investors, an increasing number, are looking for, not just talking about, but are looking for and would like to see in the business case and in the bigger picture. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And over to Elisa, a last word before we move ahead with the last presentation.
Yes, I was very happy about this question about models, because we're actually building one right now with SwapFeeds. And they're at the moment, how do you say, evaluated by 3 Dutch big banks. And we're almost into getting a deal. So after this model is done, I'm making it also. My background is in econometrics, so I used to build models all the time. And I was actually surprised that it wasn't built as of yet. A financial model that actually builds cash flow scenarios in the future for product as a service businesses. So we're almost actually getting the approval of these banks, and then I will definitely share the model in the training that we're giving, because I'm building it now for Reflower, for Tiny Library, for many other product types as well, even for a building. So it's almost there, And I think it's the key to making it financeable.
All right, amazing. Thank you so much, Elisa. Looking forward to see the results of that as well. And now over to Malin to just briefly share the results of our poll, of our Menti results, and see if we might be able to have addressed some of these challenges already here today, or if we might perhaps address some of them with the last presentation that we have from an investor, an impact investor coming up in a little while. But let's see first if we have the results ready. Feels like Eurovision Song Contest here. Oh, now we can see your email. There we go. All right. We have a lot of regulatory challenges, funding, capital, finding partners, knowing where to go. Perhaps I hope that we at least address some of that today, so you know a little bit more where to get started. Business case and return of investment, long-term orientation, value alignment, legal barriers, very common. Just very briefly, if you didn't already join our Circular Investment Readiness Network, please just scan the QR code and join us for our upcoming sessions. And now we will just have a brief summary also of the afternoon. So please stay with us in the afternoon session. We have a new link in your calendars. It starts at 1 o'clock. So please also, I think the link will also be shared in the chat. So please come back with us at 1 o'clock. And thank you all for this amazing presentations, all your presenters. Thank you so much for participating, and hope to see you all very soon again.